where they're using fire to stop fire. That's what it does. It pulls the fire out front, removes the fuel, but pulls the fire back to the head of the fire, and somewhere out here they meet, and it cuts it off, and there's nothing left to burn. That's what we did. That's what we were very lucky to do. We had that option. We executed it about 10 minutes into it. At about the same time, we said, let's go ahead and start the evacuation, because if it doesn't work, we at least want to give people as much time as possible to get out. So we ordered up 25 fire engines. We moved them all up into the area of Trinity, and then we took streets in adjacent to that, and we started to set up for structure protection, which you may have encountered up there. And now you see what the dilemma is of having fire engines on roads and people trying to leave at the same time. We implemented with law enforcement, because on our plan over here, we do have a pre-fire attack plan. And you get a brochure that comes out each year that talks about what to do in wildfire and how to be prepared for that. We pull out our plan and we start implementing that. So we have law enforcement at the command post, we have public works, fire, everybody gets together, and we ask for mutual aid, because obviously you're not going to evacuate your community with a normal number of officers that are on duty, just like we're going to go fight this fire with a normal number of engine companies. And they brought in mutual aid resources to start the evacuation. The fire also went up and over the top and actually slopped over to the South City side, burned about 75 acres on that side. That evening, we had the helicopters for about 40 minutes. They made some drops. They completed this firing operation back to where the fire started, so it took care of this flank of the fire. The fire went up the hill, came up here, was bouncing around here. We brought a dozer in. The dozer put a line in around, caught the back side of the fire, came down, tied it all the way around, and since then we've been working on trying to secure it. Now what happens is that over the days you've seen a lot of smoke at times, is it's the interior portion of the fuels in here that just are burning out. They're well within the line. They're not going to jump over the line, and we've had engine companies there for, well, it's almost a week, coming tomorrow, that have been in a helicopter coming in to try and put out. Now the problem is that some of these fuels are wet down in here, and they don't burn out very well, so they smoke a lot, and it kind of creeps up through the vegetation. But you'll see some smoke there for probably another week, but that's not unlike any fire that you see in California. Well inside the burn, we mop up about 150 feet in, all the way around the fire, and put containment lines all the way in, and then allow the interior portion to do what it's going to do, consume the fuel there, and it's basically been that for this period of time. That's all I've got. There's Randy. I don't know if you want to take questions, or if you want to.
Yeah, we do.
I think one of the things I want to do before we let Chief Myers go down is just talk to the folks who are present and remind you that Chief Myers started working on this response and this evacuation plan as far back as 2004, and was working on that with the city. And I firmly believe that it's a direct result of his personal participation in that, his personal activities as the incident commander, and certainly the incredible efforts of the nearly 200 firefighters on the ground last Sunday that really resulted in this community not losing a single life, not a single structure. So I wonder if we could maybe show them our appreciation for that. And while we're in a mode of showing our appreciation, let's also remember the nearly 50 police officers, all of the public works folks, and all the community emergency volunteers that also showed up and helped and set up shelters and got people in and out of there safely. So with that, we are here to take questions and comments. If you have comments, the lovely Vanna White, Shelley Ronwell, my assistant, is going to try to capture your comments on the board, so that I want to give you every confidence that we are taking your comments, we're listening to them seriously, and we'll do what we can to implement. Or we'll certainly be here to answer questions for you. Obviously, Chief Myers is here, the representative from CAL FIRE, the police folks are here, so who wants to start off? First question, comment. I have one right up front for you.
Yeah. We also got evacuated on Humboldt Road, and my concern was we were getting the evacuation notice. Everybody's telling us to walk down, yet there was a lot of cars still coming down. And so I thought there should have been a little more interval between, say, Sierra Point, someplace in the middle, because if everybody's walking, it's already dark, you got cars driving like crazy because they're in a panic, people walking, and so I thought that was a little dangerous, so there should have been some kind of intermediate spacing, I believe. Whether if you do it that way, I don't know, but it just seems like there were so many cars, people, trying to save their cars and a bunch of stuff and everything else, yet the order that we got was you have to walk out, and
So intervals, spacing between the evacuations, and to me, that speaks more towards perhaps more traffic control
Right.
out there, because there's always going to be that balance, right? Because there were people that only could get out by walking. Certainly,
Yeah, we
some
brought
of the
people
folks on
through
Kings
our
and Trinity
yard
had to.
from up top. We handed kids over, actually, from our neighbors and stuff to come right through my property. It just seemed like there was such a mix of one order saying you have to walk down, even on the lower part, and yet we had cars coming down Humboldt at a pretty good pace.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. It's very confusing, certainly during these evacuations. One of the reasons why we do try to control as much as we can from the incident command post to get the word down. Doesn't always get down perfectly. I will admit that. I don't believe Humboldt was a road that was ordered to be evacuated, but the word got changed. So one more people, we certainly appreciate those comments. We'll try and take those on board. Thank you. And I think one of the takeaways from that too, on a personal level, and it's hard to deal with, but the reality we all understand is that when you think you're going to burn, a lot of people get afraid, right? I mean, it's kind of hardwired into us to be afraid of fire, snakes, sharks, those sorts of things, right? You don't want to burn, you don't want to be eaten, so it gets your blood pressure up, and sometimes even well-meaning people, are driving way too fast in there by incident. They're not paying attention to what they're doing. Their thoughts are on everything else, right? Sometimes you get people trying to come in, so it just tells us all that we need to just be as calm as we can. You kind of have to go back to a kindergarten cop, right? And be wanting to be the person who gets to hold the ferret because you're marching out quietly and properly and under control as you're doing the fire drill. You have to try and be as calm as possible. Thank you. Anybody else? Other comments? I have one right here.
Yeah. I live on 280 Trinity Road, so I was at the very end. And my biggest thought was I was just very grateful that the city had taken down all those eucalyptus trees because it probably would have caught on and they're at my house.
Thank you very much for that.
Sure, go ahead. Just one comment about evacuations and everything you're talking about, they never go well. What usually happens is that they go well enough that everybody survives. If the fire would have happened here, you would have had a lot less time to get out. The fire was over here when we called for the evacuation. So the fact that we got to exercise in real life and nobody got hurt or killed, understand that it may be that you are running for your life. Look at the Oakland Hills when you saw people run down the street barefooted. So take this experience and just understand that depending on where the location of the fire may be, is that we may be saying evacuate right now and you have like 5 minutes before it hits homes. And that may be your only option. But good comments about how we might be able to do a better job of trying to work with the narrow community roads and that we have. I just want everybody to understand you felt it now. It could have been a lot closer to you and had to get out of there much faster.
I mean, can't those people not to get in their cars and just everybody walk down? I mean, you're going to burn, leave your car. I mean,
Certainly something that we can look at doing. I think by necessity, people now know cars are not a good option because they're going to compete with a big fire engine coming in,
right,
or one that's already on the road.
Right.
So more and more, I think what you're going to see is that the intermediate for us was the central part of the community, the park there. And if you got there, then we would take people and move them out to this location if you had to walk. If you were fortunate enough to be able to get out there before the fire engines got there and you're able to drive out here, that's one thing. But that's a good point. Walking is a better option for us.